Greetings! In today's video, I want to take you through my favorite supplies for 2024. Now, I know we're all a bit tired about all the constant sales and promotions and emails and all of that, so I'm not trying to sell you anything. I just want to share my favorites, and also I'll try to share a couple of ideas for things you might have at home already that would also work and that might inspire you to take a second look through your stash and rediscover something that you already had. This year, I had a lot of fun taking out these vintage pencils that I had. I originally found these as a lot on eBay and I was really interested and I really like them. It's a bit difficult to find the leads for them, but I have a small stockpile, so I'm okay for a little bit. And I often change my mind about pencils. I rotate through a bunch of different pencils, but at the moment I'm really enjoying this. So my tip for you is to go through your pencil drawer, your pencil box, your pencil case, and to see if there's something in there that you had forgotten about that inspires you. Sometimes just changing the grade of a lead or the size of a lead can really spark some ideas. These are Rapidograph pens. I lucked out and was able to get these new, well, old but never used for like $20, which is a really interesting price for these because new they retail for a whole lot more. These are technical pens. They're a bit more temperamental, they're a bit more difficult, but I really like them. There's something really satisfying with the way their nib works, and I like the fact that they are refillable. I like to use the Rapidograph ink that is waterproof in them so that I can ink and then paint, which is, my usual. But I'm really appreciative of these. The fact that they were old but new, or basically old but never used, means that there was no dry ink buildup to clean up before I could use them. They were good to go, and I really enjoyed them. So my tip for you is to keep your eyes open for those unsuspected deals and to sometimes take a chance on something you're not familiar with, because who knows, it might turn out to be pretty cool. Another favorite for inking has been these zebra pens. I think they're called Zebra Fude brush pens. They're available in 3 sizes, medium, fine, and super fine. I like to use the fine one, so it's the gray one. All the text on them is in Japanese, so aside from the color, there's not really any obvious way to differentiate them. But what I like about these is that they are waterproof. It's such an important factor for me to have waterproof pens, and I really like this nib. I used to ink a lot with the Pentel brush pen, but it was a bit more difficult to get a good control on that nib, while this one is much easier to control. Now, the downside of these pens is that they are not refillable, they are disposable, which is not ideal, but until I find a different option, I'm kind of stuck with this one. I don't really have a tip for you on this one. The only thing I can input on these pens is that I didn't know these were waterproof. I was familiar with them, but had no idea they were waterproof. And I saw an artist use them and then paint over them, even if they didn't showcase the pens themselves. I took notice of their waterproofness and jumped on that. This year I also used my swatch templates a whole lot. These are a lot of fun. They are made by the Etsy account Arts to Embers. The creator is named Zach. He's really nice, he's super kind, and he 3D prints a lot of really cool supplies. I have a few of them, and the one I use the most is obviously the swatch templates. They're really cool. They're really nice. They save me a lot of time so I don't have to measure everything out and sort everything out. I appreciate not having to cut out my own templates, which is something you can do with cardboard, but it's not an easy task. The only thing I want to mention here is to perhaps be careful if you're not in the United States. If you decide to order from Arts to Embers, the customs can be a bit of a pain. But I would suggest also to look on Etsy for perhaps a crafter that is local to you, a creator that has other types of templates that they make, so that you can support a small business and also have something that doesn't break the budget. I don't know when I got this particular item. This is a double-walled metal dog bowl. It is intended for dog food or water. I found it on sale at the local pet supply store. I really like this brand in general. I like their items. I was looking for a really squat large bowl. I don't tend to paint with 2 jars of water. I know some people paint with a jar for dirty water and a jar of clean water. I tend to paint with just one big jar, and if the water gets too grimy, I switch it out. I was looking for something that is nice and stable and big, and then it dawned on me that that's what you need also for pet bowls. So I checked out my pet supply store and I found that, and it's perfect. So my tip for this one is to look in places you wouldn't expect for something you might need. It could be the grocery store. You could get a big jar of pickles, and then when you're done with all the pickles, you get to keep the jar to paint, and it's a huge jar and it didn't cost a lot of money, and you had some pickles to eat, so win-win. One thing that I always have on hand and that I use a lot is blue tack. I know there's quite a few different names for this. In French we call it gommette, but it's basically this adhesive gum that is often used to glue posters to the wall in a non-permanent way. It's often blue, but I've seen it in turquoise and white as well, and I use it for a lot of things. It's super handy to put pans into a box or a palette that you don't want to glue them permanently in place, but you still want them to have a good hold, and blue tack is amazing for that. I've used it when I take photos so I can, keep the brushes in place or pens in place when they tend to roll around. You just stick a tiny bit of blue tack under them and they won't move. It's really useful, and I think it's one of those things that I don't think I could work as efficiently if I didn't have it always on hand. If you don't have blue tack but you have kneadable erasers, you might be able to use a bit of your kneadable eraser to stick some things in place. It's a very similar compound, but I've never personally tried using kneaded eraser. One thing that you might be familiar with as a fellow watercolorist is that you kind of need to pre-wet your paints for a really smooth experience. Some people like to spray their whole palettes. I don't like to do that, especially with metal palettes. So I tend to use a pipette and water, but you end up having to refill the pipette so much that I was looking for a way to wet my pans that would not require me to always reach for a pipette and water, and something just a bit more efficient. And I found my solution in the cooking supply aisle. It is a bottle for sauces, I think, but it works out really well. It's watertight. It's perhaps a bit difficult to get just one drop out of it, but aside from that, it's a good capacity, it works out well, and it's been really practical to have around. So again, my tip would be to think outside of the box and to look in places you wouldn't expect to find the things that might make your work more fun. One thing I really enjoyed this year are Roman Szmal paints. I just love these paints. They're a good price, the range of color is really interesting, the paints perform beautifully, and I really enjoy painting with them. If you can find them at a price that fits your budget, I really encourage you to try them out. They are such beautiful colors. As you can probably expect, I have a lot of paintbrushes, and it can be difficult to find one that really works. I've been rotating through brushes quite regularly, not really settling on any. But I found too that I really enjoy painting with, especially when I do the first pass of my painting or when I do large washes. These are the Kumatori brushes from Kuretake. They're closer to traditional Asian brushes than Western brushes in the sense that they don't have a ferrule, they're not made in the same way, they have a bamboo handle. And I've had them for a while, but I never really used them extensively. And I took them out at some point and I was like, let's give these a try. And I really like them. I haven't put them back in the box since. I don't use them for everything, but I really enjoy them for washes in larger areas. I think they work really well with the way I paint. It might be a bit difficult to procure these brushes depending on where you live, but again, if you have kind of a box of neglected brushes, it might be worth it to look through them and to, take out some brushes that you've used less and see if they match your painting style more now than they did before. And that's it for my roundup of my favorite supplies of 2024. Thank you so much for watching this video. I would love to know what your favorites were for the year and if there's any of my favorites that you would like to try. I hope you have a great day, take care, and see ya in the next one. Bye bye!